Buckle up. Welcome to Musicians and Beyond, where we bring you the backstage info on the life, lyrics, and long journeys of the music and entertainment industry. Today is episode number 24. We have an incredible guest. But first, I want to talk, Mark, episode 23 with Richard Willis and Johnny Peasy.
Richie Willis and Johnny, what a couple of fun guys they are to have on the show. They were a lot of fun. They covered a broad range of the industry. So it was a great conversation with them.
It was a lot of fun. My stomach killed when they left. You know, they were here talking about Their Songs Live On, which is a Broadway-style play musical that is going to be in the Greater Boston Stage Company, and that's November 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Can't wait to see the show.
All right. So, Mark, I want to get into today's guest. Really amazing. And first, I want to dedicate this whole podcast today to Heart of the Earth nonprofit organization. And you can find out about them at heartoftheearthorg.com. And it's an organization that helps youth use their musical and artistic talents to transform their lives. And today's guest is the founder of that, as well as a ton of other things. So I think we should welcome our guest, Michelle Brooks Thompson. Welcome.
Hi, guys. Thank
Welcome,
you
Michelle.
so much for having me.
This is awesome. This is so exciting. I mean, you've done so much. You have an organization that you started, and, you know, you've been into music for quite a long time. So I think we should probably start at the beginning. I was reading something that people were referring to you at the age of 9 as a child musical prodigy.
Yes.
Wow. Pretty amazing. Can you tell us, you know, why they thought that and how that came about?
Man. So literally music has been my entire life. And I'm very grateful for, you know, coming from a family that was passionate about music, but also gifted as well. And so at a very young age, like 4 or 5 years old, my mom knew right away that I had a musical talent. So she started pouring into me what she could, and also getting me into piano lessons and having me sing at church. And so by the time I was about 8, I could hear by ear when it came to playing the piano. So I was so in love with choir music from church and just music overall. I used to pull my keyboard out of the house and put it in the front yard, and I would gather all the kids in the neighborhood and would teach them the songs that I learned from the kids choir. And I would play, and I'd have the kids singing in the neighborhood, and it just followed me. And by the time I was 10, I started competing in competitions, and I would always win them. And it just kept building from there. And by the time I was 13, turning 14, I was the minister of music for my grandfather's church, where I was playing the piano for the service and leading the adult choir. So from there, they're like, who is this kid at 10 years old and 13 years old doing things that adults should be doing when it came to music? But I had been so gifted at such an early age that I was able to do that.
Yeah, you sure do have a great gift. So was it then at age 7, 8 that you knew that you wanted to do this for your life?
I did. Like, I would just lock myself in my room as a kid and just sing for hours. And I would listen to, you know, Celine Dion, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, every iconic voice that you can think of. And I would challenge myself to not only learn their songs, but their voice, the way that they sung it, was the bar. And my goal was to raise the bar by singing better than them, you know, putting my own flair on it, but really challenging myself, because I knew that that was the bar in the industry for that type of voice. And I knew that I wanted to be great, you know, like them. And so I just pushed myself and just kept with it all these years.
Awesome. Awesome. So your main genre is gospel, is that correct?
Yeah, I would say gospel because I grew up in the church, released some of my first music as a gospel artist. but I'm very well versed in other genres. And that was one thing I remember my mother telling me when I was younger. I was around the age of 10 or 11, and she was making me learn all these styles of music, making me play piano. And I said, well, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to do this. And she said, well, trust me, it'll make you more marketable when you're older, and you'll thank me for it. So Mama knew, and she just pushed me in every genre that she knew how.
Awesome.
That's incredible. You know, Michelle, John said it. I feel like we have so much in common. When John said that you were, people referred to you as an 8-year-old prodigy, child prodigy. A lot of people refer to me as a 50-something-year-old child. So I think we have a lot in common there.
Mark, definitely not a prodigy.
No, well, it depends on what.
You're a tremendous
depends on the
slouch.
following.
You're a tremendous slouch, Mark.
You know, as you went along, you followed your family. Your family put you in this position. Your talents were there. They recognized it. Who outside of your family would you credit as being the first one to see you and say, okay, wait a minute, let's go?
Man, you know, I had a chorus teacher when I was in high school, and he knew like right away there was something special about me amongst all the other kids that were in the chorus. And so he was from Trinidad, actually. And he would always find a song for me to sing with the chorus as a lead, vocalist. And then in 10th grade, he came to me and he said, hey, I think that you should start a high school gospel choir because there are some kids here that would love to sing that type of music, and you have the ability to do it. And I was like, okay, very suburban school. There had never been a gospel choir there. And he really believed in me. And I think that was the first person outside of my family that saw the gift inside of me and really pushed it. And by the time I got to college, within the area that we live in, the choral teacher that I studied under in college knew of me because she had conversations with the high school counselor or glee club professor about me. So it was just a lot of great connections with him. I actually miss him. I can't even get in contact with him. He moved back to Trinidad. So
Oh, wow.
His name was Jessel Murray. And I really, really appreciated what he poured into me and how he supported me.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
It's great to have a teacher like that in your life, and that I think more kids need teachers to be that involved in recognizing their talents and helping them come forward.
Yeah. You've won some international awards. Tell us about those. I mean, you have a lot. We're going to get into The Voice because all of our listeners want to hear about The Voice. But first, I want to hear about all these awards and different competitions that you've been in.
Man, I just don't know. I guess it started at such a young age and it just kind of evolved from there. And I knew that I wanted to really do this as a living. So I normally entered competitions just to use it as a platform to get my voice out there. My intentions weren't to enter to win. My intentions were, okay, I just want, an A&R to hear me. I just want a talent scout to hear me. And so I would enter these competitions and I would end up winning them. And it just, kind of became, different opportunities. And the bigger the competition, I would say, oh, that's a great platform to get on. Let me just see how far I can get and what I can do and who I'll meet. And it snowballed from there. And so my resume is pretty long. And I've met some great people, which is actually how I got on the show The Voice.
Well, one of the ones I want to ask you about, tell me about the feeling of being at the Apollo and on the stage there and what that must have been like to take home a prize there.
That was actually a surreal moment. And I watched Showtime at the Apollo as a child. So I can remember seeing, those young kids my age on there dancing and singing. And I'm just like, man, I really want that to be me. And I didn't know that my music journey would land me on that stage. And it's almost a rite of passage for artists, musicians, singers, dancers that are coming up in the industry, and they're pursuing this this life, this purpose and passion that they have. And I was very blessed to just be there and do it one time, rub the log, go out there, see all the autographs on the wall behind stage in the stairwell of all of the greats that have come through there. And again, it was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, I can cross this off my bucket list. This is a great opportunity. I've done it. I've sung here one time. And it didn't turn out like that. So, it didn't turn out like that. And I actually did it. I did it in 2014. And that was sort of my one and done. And went all the way to the end. The Super Top Dog Finals is what they call it. And I came in second place. And there's a mini rounds up before the Super Top Dog, and I had won every round. And so everybody was sort of anticipating that I would win the entire thing in the end, but I did not. And so I was a little bummed by that, but I was like, hey, I can tell my kids, my grandkids, I went to the Apollo. I won a few times. And then I got a call 3 years later in 2017, and the producers of the Apollo Amateur Night wanted me to come back and sing again. I was like, no, it's kind of like a one and done, and I don't need to do it again. And he persuaded me for about 4 weeks to come back and do it. And finally, when he told me the prize was double what it was in 2014, which brought it to $20,000, I was like, okay, just sign me up. I'll come do my first round and we'll see what happens. I'm not banking on it, and that's it. And the next thing I knew, I had won every single round and won the entire thing in 2017.
Wow. Well, congratulations to you.
Absolutely.
Let me add that we all know what that audience is like for a performer's perspective, looking out the energy that's coming at you, right? Tell me what's that like for a performer to have that feeling,
There's no judges, you know what I mean, on your side. You've got perfect strangers that you've never met, only that night. And they have no problem letting you know that you don't sound good or they're not feeling you. And the Sandman, he's there. He's waiting in the wing of the stage to come on out and tap dance you right off. But, I was very fortunate because every performance I had, I pretty much received a standing ovation, which was very amazing.
I'm sure. It must have been.
Well, one of your songs, Never Give Up, has brought you onto the Billboard charts.
Yes.
And what number did you get up to?
Number one.
There was no higher to go. And what an accolade that is. I mean, that's got to be one of your highlights. That's a big deal.
That's huge for me because, I spent so many years seeing other fellow artist friends, have their success on the Billboard. And I just believe that when it's your time, it's your time. And this part of my journey, it was my time for me to experience that career highlight. So it was definitely a cryable moment for me. And I just, feel blessed that the song was being played and reaching people because of the message, just to tell people to never give up.
Awesome. Well, you are listening to Musicians and Beyond, and we are here with Michelle Brooks Thompson, and you can find out everything about her and download her music, MichelleBrooksThompsonmusic.com. And we were just talking about a song that reached number one on the Billboard charts, Never Give Up. So I think it's a good time. We're going to listen to Michelle Brooks Thompson. Here is Never Give Up.
stabbing you. Sometimes the enemy will kill your dreams and goals. For he knows just all the great things God has promised. But don't you worry, no weapon shall prosper, you won't fall. So hold your head up high, God will never leave you. God will never let you fight alone. He's given us power and strength to fight the battle. So keep on going, continue on and never give up. Never give it. No. Closer to the top. You're closer. Closer to the wheel. Never give up. Oh, you can make it. Never give it. Oh, yeah. Closer to the top. Closer to the wheel. Never give up. Never give it. You can't give up now. Closer to the top. Closer, yes, you are. Closer to the wheel. Closer to the wheel. Yes, you are. Never give it. Oh, I see you trying. Closer to the top. Get closer to the top. Closer to the Don't you dare. Oh, don't you dare throw your dreams away. Said you're closer to the top. Hold on to your faith. Oh, trust is the way. Ooh, yeah. Closer to the yeah. Never give up. Never give it. We're closer to the top. You're closer to the top. We're closer to the you're so strong. Oh, you come so far. Oh, don't you dare give up. Oh, your dreams are right there. Oh, you can reach up and grab it. You can't give up now. Oh, you come so far, yes you have. Oh, you're closer to the top. God will never leave you or forsake you. Right up his heels to you. Yeah, he ordered your steps. Just so reach up and grab it. We're closer to the top. You've come too far to give up now.
Could you tell us, when you wrote that song, what went into it? What inspired you to bring that wonderful message to the world?
There is, well, first let me say this. I think that as an artist, when we write songs, my goal has always been to produce music that is timeless, that has a message, that reaches people, because music is such a beautiful thing and it reaches people across all like ethnicities, backgrounds. Like, music is so beautiful. And so with this song, we were, my partner, Mark Copeland, he's a Berklee College of Music ensembles professor. We were working on a version of the National Anthem because I sing it so much. So we were putting out an official recording of it. And he actually came to me and said, I have another song for you. And I said, oh, you do? Okay. And the song was given to him in a dream. And he woke up from the dream and sat at the piano, started playing the music, what he heard, and writing out the lyrics that he heard in the dream. And so we went into the studio and we recorded it. But it was at a time where I felt like in my musical journey, I wanted to actually kind of pause and stop. my pursuit. And I share that to be transparent, because that's one thing I've always wanted to be as an artist, is be transparent with other artists that are coming up, to know that this journey in the industry is not easy. And, you know, a lot of times we see the success of artists, but we don't see like those closed doors, those stories. We don't hear about, you know, the rejections and things like that. And so it literally was just last year where I said, you know what, I think I'm going to step away from music for a while and just focus on other things. And we literally were in the studio recording this song when all those emotions were coming through. And we got done. We weren't releasing it for a few months. And I had actually decided that we weren't going to release the song, because I felt like, well, if I'm going to stop music for a while, there's no reason to release this song and, you know, promote it and all of that. And so my good friend Mark, you know, we sat and we talked, and he's just like, you know, you're so close. Like, you've done so much in your career that, you know, you really got to keep going. Like, you can't give up. And I laugh about this all the time, because he starts quoting the lyrics of the song to me. And I'm like, I know what it says. I sang it in the studio. But he was trying to encourage me, because at that moment, the very song that he dreamed was something that I needed to encourage me to keep going. And so, I mean, it literally has become a song that I breathe and listen to frequently, not only just, you know, because it's on the radio, or, you know, I'm doing an interview and they're playing it, but because it speaks to me. It encourages me, you know, that I'm on this journey that's mine. And I can't give up, because I'm so close to what I've been working hard for. And over the last 10, 11 months, that song has been so true to me and my journey right now.
With that said, you know, one of the things we ask a lot of the guests on the show is, if you were looking to younger musicians who are coming up, what is the one bit of advice you could give them? And is there, we always ask about the highlights, and you can talk forever about those, but one moment that I think you may have just said it, about one of those transformational moments where you may have said, I'm done. It's a tough thing to even comprehend that someone at your level could feel that way. What do you tell a kid?
So, you know, I always say, be sure that this is what you were meant to do. This is what you want to do, because there are going to be obstacles. And I can say this for sure, because I actually went to college to be a doctor. Wow. And I got all the way to my senior year, getting ready to find medical schools, take the MCAT. And I woke up one day and I said, you know, I don't want to go to med school. I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a singer. You know, so I called home and I told my family, and they were kind of puzzled, like, well, what do you think you're going to do with singing? And you're not going to med school. Like, how are you going to make a career? You know, and I was like, I don't know the answer to that right now, but I do know that I was meant to sing. And that was, you know, that was it. And I always think about the movie Sister Act 2, where Whoopi Goldberg tells Lauryn Hill that if all you think about, all you dream about is singing, music, then you were meant to be a singer. And for me, that was my life. I ate music, I breathed music, like everything around me was music. And I just felt like that was what I was purposed here to do. So once you know that, you begin your pursuit. And it's going to be some hard days. You're going to have some wins. You're going to have some losses. And you just have to be sure, you know, that this is what you were meant to do, and go after it. And I always say it's okay to cry. You know, we all get disappointed. We want something, we hope for it, we believe for it, and then it doesn't happen. And, you know, we hear people say that right before you give up is when it's about to happen for you.
Isn't that the truth?
And like, I am so like serious when I say like that is, I've lived that over the last 12 months, because it was August of last year that I really wanted to stop. I wanted to stop music because I just got to a point of, you kind of get numb. At the same time, you still have feelings to the rejections, to the no's, to the broken promises. And you got to just be like, you know what? I'm just not going to involve myself in it. And I had a radio promoter at the time who said something to me that really was life-changing, that put things in a different perspective that no one in my circle had really ever threw back at me. And what he asked me, because I told him, I said, hey, listen, you don't have to continue promoting my single that was out at the time, Woman First. I said, because I'm not going to do any more radio interviews. I'm going to step back and take a break from music. I think I'm done for a little bit. And so he got quiet. And then he said to me on the phone, he said, so let me get this straight. You're going to fire yourself because of what other people have done. And I said, wait, say that again. And he was like, so you're firing yourself from what you've done so well. You were gifted to do, you were purposed to do, because of other people failing you, because of other people not coming through. And so you're firing yourself. And I was like, well, no one's ever asked me that. No one's ever put it in perspective like that for me. And I began to think, how can I stop my dream because someone else didn't deliver? When I've been pursuing it for so long, and I've been doing what I need to do as an artist, making sure, I put out good music, making sure, I've got a team behind me. And so that was really the life-changing conversation that gave me that last push into that final stretch where, like, okay, you're there, your promise is right there, you just got to push a little bit harder. And when I walked into 2022, it was like an entire turnaround that I never expected, that I walked into a season of my journey that I was about to forfeit because I was going to give up.
I'm curious about the timing of what you went through. Did the pandemic affect you in any way related to that? Was there anything that you were stalled because of that, or?
A little bit. We put off some recordings because things got shut down. But I was still fortunate to be able to do virtual shows, which was, nice. And then once things kind of had like a soft reopening, I was able to get out and do, small venues for different, private functions and corporate functions. And so it worked out for me, where I wasn't too isolated from performing. But I know some people they didn't have a lot of things happening.
So I see that you go around, you sing the national anthem at a lot of in professional football and baseball and everything. Not too long ago, you were in Charlotte and you had can I call it an incident?
Yes.
In front of 75,000 of your closest friends. Amazing.
Oh,
I remember seeing this story on the news, and it's awesome that I'm actually face-to-face talking with you now. What happened?
Oh, my gosh. They say I was such a good sport when this happened, and I was a true professional. And it's actually, the story is quite funny because they had just got a new sound system, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, the Panthers, and we did our sound check that day before the event. It was perfect. And while I was singing, I got midway through the anthem, and first the mic cut out at sort of like 3 seconds in, and then it came back. And I'm like, okay, all is well in the world. Then it went back out and it came back in. And I got to the next half of the song, and all of a sudden I hear the stadium singing with me. And I'm just like, wow, this is fantastic. This has never happened before at all the games I've sang at. And I'm like, wow, I must be doing really, really good out there. So I get done. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, there's kind of a delay too. Like, I don't know what's going on. Why are they ahead of me? And so we get done. The stadium applause. They're going crazy. I'm like, man, I really did my good rendition today. Get to my green room. My husband's standing there. The production man that was in front of me, guiding me the whole time, is kneeling down in front of me. And he's just like, man, you really did an awesome job. You sounded great, and you handled it like a professional. And I'm like, it's okay. The mic went out. It came back in. And my husband looks at me and he shakes his head. And I'm like, what? What did I miss? And the production guy says, your mic never came back on. And I'm like, no, it did, because I had on in-ears and I could hear myself through the mic. I could hear the people in the stadium coming through my mic. And he said that everyone with headphone sets could hear me, but no one in the stadium could hear me.
Oh, my.
And so I never knew until I got to my green room that was what happened.
Pretty incredible.
That's America coming together. I mean, it's amazing when something like that happens, how everyone just,
Joins
steps
in.
up and makes the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, awesome. It was definitely one of those moments where I felt like I was totally thinking one thing, but something else was happening and I had no idea. And, at the end, I get this thunderous applause and I'm just like, wow, 75,000 people. Oh my gosh. And then I found out they couldn't even hear me.
It must be hysterical to watch it back.
It is.
Because only you can associate with it in that kind of way.
And, the funny thing is that I always said, I know one of these times, these anthems are going to go viral. But in my mind, it wasn't going to be one of those types of incidences. But, they regarded it as a very, unified moment where so many people came together. And when you think about the political side of the anthem and so much controversy that there has been, to have 75,000 voices singing it in unity together, that is a historical moment.
Yeah.
And, I was actually happy to be a part of that because it's never happened before. And now it's this historical, moment in Charlotte during the inauguration. And guess who was there? Michelle Brooks Thompson was at the center of what took place. So it's still a great achievement. And, I think that even if I had known my mic that nobody could hear me, I would have delivered just the way that I delivered, not knowing that they couldn't hear me.
Now, we've talked about the lows, and that's a pretty good high right there. What would you look at over the span of your career as your most favorite moment, the one moment that just shook you? Can you point to any?
There's a couple, but I would say I got to sing for Derek Jeter at Fenway. And I didn't really know who Derek Jeter was, I'll be honest. And so when they called me, the Red Sox called me and they're like, hey, we want you to do this tribute. We were going to they were getting some big Grammy name. And, they were like, we discussed it, but we want to get you. And so I was like, okay, great. So my husband, on the way to the event, that game that day, it was a farewell ceremony because he was retiring. And the Red Sox wanted to give him a little special tribute before the game. So my husband was like, you do know that everybody's going to be at this game. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's just like, this is Derek Jeter. And I'm like, he's a baseball player. He's like, He's like, no, he's not just a baseball player, and so
Even I, as a Red Sox fan, revere him. Just so you know, that's where he sits.
Right. So they were like, we want you to sing "Respect" by Aretha Franklin. So I was like, okay, perfect. So we go through the rehearsal. And everything worked great. They had me practice walking across the field and singing. And they're like, okay, Derek Jeter's going to be right over there. We want you to walk up to him and serenade him. Boom, perfect. Everything goes well in sound check. I'm learning this. So when it's time to perform for Derek Jeter, I'm walking across the field and I'm singing "Respect." And the long mic cord ended up getting tangled. So the guy on the field, he runs out, he's trying to undo the cord, the knot. And so I signal for Derek Jeter to come over. I'm like, he's not going to come to me, right? So I'm singing like, what you want, babe? And so I signal for him to come over, and he starts walking towards me. And so he literally stands there, and I'm singing to him, and he gives me a hug. And, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just hugged Derek Jeter. And I get to serenade like one of the best New York Yankee baseball players that there has ever been. So that was a real highlight for me in my career.
That's a good one. That's a good one, Mark. We can't even say we did that. So if you don't mind, can we get to The Voice? You were on The Voice. I think it was season 3. You were a finalist on The Voice. And I believe your coach was Adam Levine.
Yes.
He was. And he said that you had supernatural singing ability.
Yes.
How was The Voice, and how did you get into even auditioning for it? And then bring us through the time frame of what went on.
So I was actually singing at a number of events, and a talent scout connected with me some prior years to when The Voice happened. And the season that I was on, they were looking for private, recommendations for a private audition. And someone she knew was connected to The Voice. And she reached out to me, and it was kind of like one of those, when you know something is for you, it's for you. Because I had auditioned for American Idol. I had auditioned for another singing show. And the night before I got the call, it was in February of 2012, I was watching The Voice. I just happened to be watching it. And my aunt called me, who was a singer, and she said, hey, have you seen the new show, The Voice? And I'm like, yep, I'm watching it right now. And she said, you should audition. And I told her, I said, no, I don't want to audition for any TV shows. And I said, but you should audition because they have no age limit. And so we laughed, and I never thought any more about it. And then I woke up the next morning, and the talent scout said, give me a call. I have a major network talent show that's looking for private recommendations, and I want to recommend you. So I called her, and I was like, so what is the show? And she said, it's NBC's The Voice. I said, okay, but I'm not interested. So thank you for thinking of me. I'm going to pass. And she understood, but she was still like very adamant about me considering it and thinking about it and getting back to her. So I was actually teaching music at a school, and literally 5 days later, I was at an assembly, and I was waiting for the assembly to start because my choir kids were singing. And someone from the school, one of the faculty members, walked up to me while I'm waiting, and she says, you should audition for The Voice. And I knew what she said, and I turned to her and I said, what did you say? And she changed her wording. She said, you need to audition for The Voice. And I said, wow, that's interesting. I said, because that's been presented to me this week, but I haven't made up my mind. And to be honest with you both, I never thought any more of it past that day. Because in my mind, I knew that I wasn't going to do it. And so I forgot all about it. I didn't get excited about a private audition. And the talent scout called me again and said, hey, I just want to let you know that the audition, the preliminary, isn't going to be in Boston this year. They're moving it to New York instead. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to do it anyway. And another week or two went by, and I really have forgotten all about it. And what they had set up was the person who was making the recommendation to The Voice had a little mini audition where they invited a couple of artists from the area, and they listened to about 20 of us and picked who they wanted to go to casting, to have a private full interview. You would perform 3 songs. They would get to know you. It's not what you see in the open calls when you get 30 seconds to sing in a room full of, 200 people. So my husband and I were out, and I got a phone call, and she said, hey, we're going to be in Boston tomorrow doing the preliminary to send those to New York to casting. Are you coming? And I told her no. And me being the good wife, listened to my husband, because he said, no, tell her you're going to go. And I was like, I really don't want to. I don't want to put myself through the audition process, because I had done it for American Idol. I had done it for another show for 2 seasons, and there was another show on ABC, and I just didn't want to do that. And my husband was like, no, you really should do this. And so I said, fine, I'll do it. And went there the next day. I sang my 2 songs, and there was about 20 other singers there. And before we could really get back on the Mass Pike, we got a call from them saying that out of everybody they heard, I was the only one that they wanted to send to New York.
Wow.
So then I started feeling a little excited, like, okay, this might be something happening here. And I got to New York a couple of weeks later at SIR Studios. And, I was feeling very insecure about, the way I looked, about the way they thought I was going to sound. And, having done American Idol auditions, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth about these shows, because at that time, American Idol was so famous for taking someone in a chicken costume, over someone who could actually really sing. And that was what happened to me when I auditioned for American Idol. I sung a full Whitney Houston song, and they looked at me and said, we're not sure. But then the guy next to me who, sang in a rainbow tutu and fairy wings, he sung Michael Jackson, he made it through. So it was a little disheartening. So going into the audition room with casting and the lead vocal coach for the show at that time, I was feeling a little insecure. And I'll never forget it, because when I walked in the room, they looked at me and they said, before you sing, we just want to tell you that we love everything about you. We love the way you look. And I just felt like it was a divine intervention moment for me, because it was the one thing that I was most concerned about. And I had never met them before. And those were the exact words that came out of their mouth before I sang. And from there, it took like a whole amount of stress off of me. And that's why I say to any artist, when it's your time, it's your time. Nothing can stop it. And, I just put a post up on social media about knowing when something is meant for you. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to question it. It's not chaotic. It's peaceful. Everything just flows piece by piece. And that was what was happening with The Voice. And I mean, the rest was history. I was literally, next thing I knew, I was on a plane to the executive callbacks in LA. And I pretty much stayed out there for the duration. I think I came home for like a week or two at some points, but the rest, I was in LA for about 5 months until, I got eliminated from the show.
So, Michelle, what's your husband's name?
His name is David.
Well, David, we want to thank you for making sure you were there and to keep pushing her.
Yes. He definitely is like I call him my husbander, because, he's taken on the role of my music manager plus, the husband. But, sometimes you do need that extra push. And, for artists that are listening to this, get you a team of people that believe in you, even on your worst day, right? You may not sound the best. You might not have the best, performance that day, but they still believe in you and think that, you are the best at what you do. And that does help make the journey go smoother. And, just having that support, because we all need support, whatever it is in our life, and I can remember when I wanted to stop last year, my bass player looked at me and he said, "Nah, we're not letting you stop. It's okay if you want, take a couple of breaks for performances and things like that, but we're not letting you stop. We're here for you." And, that meant a lot to me. And having that support system for artists is really essential, because those no's are going to come, those rejections are going to come, but you need someone fighting for you and pushing for you. And if you have that, great. If not, just keep being out there and you'll meet people who think that you have a great talent. And sometimes it might be a perfect stranger who's your biggest supporter and want to be there for you. And that was sort of what happened for me with The Voice. It was a talent scout who happened to see me perform, and she was blown away. And she just wanted to help in any way that she could and recommended me to the show.
Like you say, it's good to have people there that can support you and help you through those hurdles and keep pushing you and believe in you. That's so important in every aspect of life. But when you're a performer and you need that, like you say, you were feeling insecure, someone said something, there's a sign there for you, follow the signs. Just keep going.
Yeah, you have your family behind you, your friends, your co-workers. It's great.
You talked about Derek Jeter being one of the best Yankees of all time, one of the best baseball players of all time. He only hit the ball 3 out of every 10 times, and he's that great. So, set your expectations somewhere in.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'll have to, put that on my wall of knowledge.
Oh, goodness. So,
tell me about your foundation.
Yeah, so my husband and my husband's an athletic coach. He had a career in the NFL and semi-pro and, went into coaching. And I have worked in schools to teach music, and I taught music at Job Corps of America. And that was my first introduction to an environment where there were a lot of young adults and young people who kind of had been dealt a hard hand in life, but they had skills, right? And they needed to be in a place where those skills that they had could flourish and be, cultivated. And so music happened to be one of the artistic talents that they were trying to incorporate at the school. So I was asked to come in and teach some music there. And that was an eye opener for me. And I think that's really where I saw firsthand how music could really develop someone. And I saw so many kids come through my class that had to get out of them what they were experiencing at home, a traumatic life experience. So that launched Heart of the Earth. And what my husband was doing with young people was also, he was taking these kids who had never had, anybody pour into them with athletics. And it was one of those talents that were allowing them to go to college for the first time, allowing them to graduate high school for the first time. And so I said, you know what? Let's create a foundation that really focuses on that and helps young people. So that was how that was birthed.
Yeah, it's great that you and your husband both have fantastic talents and that you are using it for the better of children all over. So people can find out about the information, and they can also donate if they go to heartoftheearthorg.com and find out all the wonderful things you're doing. We really want to thank you. We want all our listeners to go on to all of your social medias and follow you and find out your up and coming events and releases, and follow Musicians and Beyond. And, think about, contributing to help others out.
Yeah. Let me, before we go, let me ask you, what's next for you? What do you have coming up?
So hopefully November 15th, I'll find out that I've made the final ballot for this year's Grammys, which is definitely a pinnacle of my career.
Wow.
For me. I have 4 items on the ballot this year, and first round voting finished about 2 weeks ago. So they announced the final nominees next Tuesday.
Excellent.
So, from today.
Awesome.
So I'm hoping that I'll get at least one nomination out of the 4 that were on there.
Well, we're going to be hoping for all 4 for you.
That'll work. That'll definitely be mind blowing. But
that's great.
So I'm excited for that. And, I'm always performing and doing different shows. I actually have my first international performance booking, and I'll be going to the UK in February. So I'm excited for that. And I'll be singing for the 49ers Christmas Eve.
Oh, wow.
They have a special game that they're doing. So I'll be going to San Jose during winter, which will be very, very nice.
Very good for you.
So many opportunities, to catch me singing and performing. And I just believe that this has been such a amazing season in my career that I've worked so hard for, that every time I turn around, my husband's getting a new email from somewhere else, or, someone's reaching out from something bigger than what I could ever think of. And so I'm just very excited. And I literally never know. I can get off this podcast with you guys and wake up tomorrow and something else will present itself. So.
God willing.
That's great. Not as big as the Grammys, but now you can put on your resume that you've been a special guest of Mark and John at Musicians and Beyond.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're very excited for you. The next week, we'll be rooting for you, and we're looking forward to watching bigger and better things come along for you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching your journey.
Thank you.
We want to thank you again for taking your time, coming on, telling us some great stories, and I think we earned a new friend today, so we want to thank you for being our friend.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.